Alrighty. Make sure. I'm putting this mic stand through its paces. My $20 microphone stand. Hey guys, we are going to wait a little bit so that people can jump in, and then I will kind of go over what we did last time because it's been 2 weeks. And then we will start part 2. So for those of us who are here back again, how did your basic block creation go? I know you were following along, but we have our blocks. Are we ready? Close that. Turn off. I don't need to see myself twice. And we will check the Discord. Yes, thank you, Streambot. Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be mildly chaotic. Hello, everybody. Yes, good morning, afternoon, evening. Add image. I'm just gonna but one image for this one time. Desktop. Stream part 2. No, I don't want that. Edit. We've been using them as the promotional images, but I'll put what we're working on today on screen. You don't have to copy my colorway. Yeah, where's a good one? I see where it placed him. He's huge. Okay, we're gonna do this. Order. Move down. Control down. All right. Wait. I'm gonna make him just like, hey guys, we're just waiting. He's just waiting in the background for everybody. Hello. All right, some people have missed the first part, so that's gonna be okay. Ish. You're gonna have to. Do we have the ability? You should be okay-ish. For those of you who missed the first part, I highly recommend you watch that part after this. There is something you can use to follow along today, but I highly recommend, for the sake of free educational materials, that you follow along with the stream that we did last time in the future. There's something that you can use to follow along. The Invisible Man is here. He's waiting for everybody who was here last time to come back because he knows we're probably going to not have as many. Thank you, TikTok. It's just popping up. So I'll explain for those of you who did not follow the first video. You had time. The stream was available on YouTube for free afterwards to follow along. I expect all of you to follow that who haven't been here. All right, so far so good. New. We have a couple of new people, yeah. So I'll show you what you can use. But yeah. So well, he's waiting patiently. Well, no, you can follow along, Lamona. This specific style of stream is meant to follow along. There's an asset you can use as long as you have the latest version of Marvelous Designer. You can follow along. You'll be able to do this. The only reason I'm pushing that you should watch the previous stream is that you are learning a lot of pattern creation for free and a lot of the beginner tools for free. So if you aren't entirely new, you should be able to follow along if you know some of the basic tools. but if you're completely brand new, you might find a little bit of difficulty. Just a heads up. Hello, hello, everybody. So we're going to wait till the 10 minutes. He's waiting. He's looking at his watch. I'm just pretending that this invisible man is just like, where is everybody? Where are you all? Just waiting impatiently. So also today, for those of you who are ready to do this, I did announce that we have we're doing logos or like a graphic. So have your PNG prepared or take one from the video description that's on YouTube. I will post a link again to a PNG that you can use if you don't have one. And you mainly for Twitch, because I can't add a PNG to a video description ahead of time. So I'll share links so that people can follow along. Where is that? Beginner stream. PNG file. Copy link address. All right. So I'm going to wait till the 10. I'll wait a little bit longer and then I'll share the PNG link. And I'm going to explain what everyone kind of needs to prepare. In case you have not prepared, which is totally fine. But if you ask me what software we're using, I may or may not judge you. So we're going to do this. We're not going to do the same colorway. And I'll give us a couple more minutes. I will give everyone the PNG link for those of you who are not on YouTube. The link is in the description. But if you have your own PNG, you don't have to use the one that's provided. So you can. I'll announce myself here in a minute. We'll do a re-announcement for those of you who don't know what this is. A little reintroduction. I do it every time, and people generally leave whenever I do that introduction. So it's kind of funny, in my opinion. Okay. I'm going to share the link once. For those of you who do not have a PNG, so if you don't have a logo, like I'm using the Marvelous Designer logo. This one's just one of the same shape, but it's not the Marvelous Designer logo. You can use this logo. And then I'll do introductions here in a minute or two, because there's a 30-second lag. So download that PNG. You can use that for this project. All right. So for those of you who are new, welcome to the beginner stream. This is part 2. You will be able to follow along with assets that are available in Marvelous Designer if you did not attend or watch the previous stream. I do still recommend that you watch the previous stream just because it's free educational content that is paced in the way that you could follow along while you watched the stream. So today we are making shirts from that basic shirt block, and we will be making these two tops here. We're going to be making a sweatshirt and a t-shirt because they're fun, quick, easy basics for a lot of people, and we will be completely finalizing those two garments. So we will cover fabrics, top stitching, and graphics, as you can see. So I have supplied a free graphic PNG for anybody who wants to follow along and doesn't have one. But you can use your own graphic if you have provided one or picked one out ahead of time. You don't have to. You didn't have to be completely prepared. I have one prepared for you. And so for those of you who are new, I am Meg, and I am the community manager and trainer, and I'm the moderator on the Discord channel. So feel free to join our Discord channel. Links are all in the bio and of our Twitch profiles, of our YouTube channels, and everything about my computer is in the description of the video. If you ask me what computer I'm using, it was made in 2016. So that's all you really need to know. So I'm using Marvelous Designer 11 on a relatively older computer. Most of the time you can run it. And I'm streaming with my CPU. So out of the way, what software am I using? I am using Marvelous Designer. Looks like the plumbing job. I'm using Marvelous Designer. That is the name of the account that you should be watching this on. Or if someone took it, well, they're pretending to be us. So if you ask me what software I'm using, it's Marvelous Designer in the comments. For those of you in the future, don't ask me what software we're using, please. Please, it's just Marvelous Designer. So I'm going to, since we have a couple of new people here, I'm posting the link again. This is the graphic you're going to need. For those of you who are new, we're not going to use this graphic for a little while, so I'm going to post it again in case you haven't downloaded it. But let's go ahead and get started. So I'm hiding it, but I'm going to actually do this. Marvelous Designer 11, similar interface to Marvelous Designer 10. This is how I'm running it, so people are familiar with it a little bit more. I'm actually opening the library in this window just so you can see it a bit better. For those of you who were not here last time, under Garments, there is a basic t-shirt. You can use this t-shirt to follow along, okay? If you weren't here last time, you can use this t-shirt, and this will be your basic block. I'm going to refresh my screen. So do that. For me, I'm going to add a folder to my window. Stream part 2, select. I've added a custom folder. Normally, I don't keep them custom because most of the time people are going to ask me, where's that folder? You can add a folder from your desktop. So I've just double-clicked this folder. Bring in your shirt project from the last stream. So I'm just going to double-click it. You can also go up to File, Open. So for those of you with the short sleeve shirt, you will need to make your shirt sleeve longer. So once everyone has opened up their project, I will give you guys a little bit so then we can continue. And I'll give you guys time to adjust that short sleeve garment. So again, garment, I'm hiding it. T-shirt pack, Z-pack right here. That's the one you're going to use. And then just lengthen the sleeves by using the Edit Pattern tool and then just grabbing the hem and pulling it down. You will want your sleeve to look like this on the hem. I'm going to give it another minute or two, and then I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So give your guy long sleeves because we're going to have a t-shirt first. Shouldn't take that long. Short sleeve, long sleeve. Just grab it with the Z hotkey or the Edit Pattern tool, and then just drag and drop. Make sure that it is a little bit curved. Well, you don't really have to, but you can. I recommend it personally. It's going to be hidden, but you can do that. Because this way you at least have a long sleeve shirt block. We will technically be deleting that curve, but I still want you to have it in there. All right. So I'm going to give it another bit. Everyone's got their project in their scene. Everyone's got a long sleeve shirt of some sort without a collar. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and assume everyone does. So we will make the undershirt first. So as I did say, I did want you to make it a straight curve line. It's okay in this case to make this straight, and that's what we're going to do. The only reason that we're doing it this way is because he will have it's a knit material, so so it's not too bad. So I'm going to remove my curve line here by right-clicking and choosing Delete All Curve Points. So now it is a straight line. It doesn't do too much, but it is important for help. The sleeve is going through his arm. If you don't know how to use the arrangement points, you may struggle. Use the arrangement points on the avatar. Use the avatar arrangement points. This was covered in the previous video. So this is kind of like if you're not a brand new beginner, you might just want to watch. But if you know a little bit, you can follow along. But this was why that it is important to follow this part. So arrangement points are here. Show arrangement points. I can't simulate with them on. While people do that, show arrangement points. Click, and then click. And that replaces it. If you don't know how to use the tools, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Just a heads up. So I'm going to turn this off. He now has his long sleeve shirt. So in this case, we are making a longer sleeved shirt with a bit of a longer torsoed t-shirt. And we're still just using the basic fabric. This looks a little cattywampus to me. I don't know why. So we have our basic shirt, and it's about the length we want. This is longer than it would be like the block is. So make sure to make this a bit longer than your block, because this is his longer t-shirt, like the kind that you would like layer with things, because we're layering it today. So we will move on to starting our design lines. So I need to create for him, I want to have a collar, and we're going to do 2 ways to create this collar depending on how you've made your collar in the last stream. So first of all, we're going to see if my collar is wide enough that I can either cut into it or I can add to it. So we're going to do both ways, so don't worry. So the first way is we're going to add our collar, or our like elastic piece that goes around our t-shirts. We're going to be adding that to the collar design-wise. So this one's going to be the additional, the additive style. So I'm going to use my Z hotkey or my edit pattern tool, and I'm actually going to measure these 2 lines. So these 2 lines are 224.9 on the half. So I'm remembering that number. You measure yours as well. The number is going to be where it is in the bottom right hand like corner of your mouse. Those are the 2 line lengths added together. So 224.9 is mine. I'm going to use the rectangle pattern tool, and then 224.9. And it is not needing to be 500 millimeters. We'll do 20 millimeters. And then I'm going to right click one of the lines, because remember, this is only half. I'm going to right click and unfold with symmetric editing. This will let me just sew half of it together. So I'm going to start from the front to the middle, so I'm remembering what I'm doing. I don't want to do it. Don't do the front to the middle. Think of it this way. Real pieces like this, you're going to put them on the shoulder seam, because that would make it ugly. I mean, it's easy to do, but I like to do it this way. So we're going to go like this. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's a little bit like designer friendly. It makes it look nicer. So you're going to select the whole seam, and then you're going to start from one of your shoulders. So I'm just selecting from the front, and then I'm going to hold shift, which allows me to sew multiple lines into one line. And then I'm remembering that I'm sewing into the next one. So remember how you're going in a circle in a consistent direction. We're going to do the same with the back. And then let go of shift. So this is now, it looks crazy in 3D, but let's see how it looks with right clicking and choosing superimpose side. Because now it's got a whole side sewn together, so it will go on top of itself. You can also check by turning on the arrangement points and then moving it out of the way so you're not selecting it at the same time, and then placing it in space. Let me do it this way so you can see it a bit better. I'm going to rotate it. And you can kind of check your work, make sure it's not crossed over. I'm going to turn off the arrangement points, and I can check and make sure there's no crossing over. Looks like there might be. We're going to find out. Yeah, there definitely is. I'm going to undo that. You can't change tools in the 2D window. You would have to double click those tools in the 2D window and select them. All right, so mine's got crossing over. So in this way that we've done this, I'm going to remove linked editing and then restart the sewing. Just because it's a little mad. So again, I'm just starting like, here's the front piece. Okay, that looks good. And then here's the back piece. This is just another way to do it. Whichever way works best for you, do it that way. Because curves on a body and then visualizing them flat can be confusing to a lot of people. And I'm just sewing the two ends together. Now this is not perfect. This is one of the couple of ways that I'm going to show you how to do this trim. So if yours is further away from his neck than you want, you can use this. Now you can see here that this is kind of falling back. It's kind of standing up. I'm going to use Control H. Don't do this. You don't have to. But you can see here that it's too big for where it's sewing into. It's too big for his neck. It's falling down. This doesn't look right. So the reason for that is because it's sewing into a seam line here that is a longer line, or the line length is longer than it would be on his torso because it's a smaller curve. You're technically sewing something flat. Technically, you could just make a curve, which we'll do in the next one. But to make this fit, and which is what they do in real life, you're just going to make this about 20% to 15% smaller. Just kind of eyeball it. It's fine. And then you can get your knit. What you're looking for, let me do it this way, is no puckering, no gathering here. He doesn't really have any. And you're looking for it to be pretty flat. Now this doesn't really fit him. It's too high on his neck. We can see it's pretty high up here. On the video, I'm doing it in person. It's too high on the actual neck itself. So, but for my guy it is. For yours, if this works for you, you can leave it. Now we're going to do the opposite way. For those of us who have them a little high, like up here. We can see it's hitting right where the neck, let me simulate this. You can see it's hitting right where the neck joins kind of the torso. So what we're going to do is the opposite. We are going to select both of those lines again, But this time, right click, offset as internal line, and I'm going to choose that same measurement, which is the 20 millimeters. Okay. And then while it's still selected, don't click away. Right click, cut and sew. This isn't my personal favorite, but you could just leave it like this. I don't recommend it because we were going to be using a graphic that is vertical lines. So we're going to do the same thing we just did previously and use the measuring option to create a straight line. That is that. But what we can do is do the exact same thing again. 224.9. And because it is now that same smaller length on the top of that line, we don't have to change the length and eyeball it. I'll show you. Sounds weird, but I'll show you because it's already done the shrinkage. 20 millimeters again. This time we're choosing just unfold. I'm using the N hotkey to change in between. You can see my tools here. I'm going to actually just crop them all up. We're not looking at fabric right now, so I'm moving this here. So I'm using the segment sewing tool to sew those together. And then I'm using the M hotkey, which is the free sewing tool. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to sew it into the neck, holding shift. And then into the other neck. Here I can use superimpose side. And we can see here that we have created that collar. And I'm going to simulate with the spacebar. Now we do have that collar. It's a little low on the back. You can change it if you want. I'm just using what we made last time. If you don't like it, you can do this. Just raise this center back piece. I'll give you guys a minute to do that, to get to this point. Because if you do raise the center back, just like I did, you do want to make it a little smaller. But if it was like a perfect fit before that you loved, don't do that. Once you have given him a collar with a rectangular pattern piece, we'll move on. You can't change tools in the window. Are you still struggling with the tools in the 2D window? If you are, and if you are brand new, I don't know how new you are. You're just going to want to like click them. Click once to open up the window, and then you can click down. You can also pop them out. Okay, give it a try. For those of us who are following along, have you made your collar? You kind of can, but crossing over between the two, it's whichever tool you've selected in that window. So we're going to give it a couple of seconds, and then we're going to move forward. All right, so I expect you've made your collar, and now we're going to go ahead and let me hide this. We've made our collar. Now we are going to make our sleeve cuff pieces and our hem. These are going to not be seen, but this is going to be something that helps for rendering export in the future. Because raw edges are just really annoying. So we are going to create that fold over, and we're simulating that fold over. So I'm going to right click on the edges of my sleeves and of my shirt. We're doing them both at the same time. So select with the Edit Pattern tool or the Z hotkey. Select, hold Shift, and then select the hem of, again, of all of these items. So select the sleeve hem of your shirt and the shirt hem itself. Once you've done that, again, holding Shift so that they're all selected. You can see they're all highlighted. The blue ones are technically also selected. Once you've done that, right click, and we're going to do the same thing we did before, offset as pattern, as internal line. And let's also just stick with the 20 millimeters. And select OK. Once you've created that internal line, this is going to be where, if you own a t-shirt, you can look at it, where that fold over is on your t-shirt. This is also where we will be applying some stitching. Not now, but we'll be applying it pretty soon. So once you have applied your internal lines, we're going to do a little bit of a cheat. There's a couple of ways to do this. So for those of you who might have missed some of these pieces, we're going to cover them in a minute. Once you've created your internal lines, we're going to cut them just like we did before. So we're going to do the cut, copy, merge back method. You can use trace, but sometimes it causes people problems, and this is a little faster for everybody. So we're choosing cut and sew. So make sure that those internal lines are selected again, or don't unselect them. Right click, cut and sew. Now I've just cut off the bottom. But in this case, we do want to simulate that thickness. So what we are going to do is we aren't going to use the fold method. We are just going to layer clone over or under. So select all of those pieces. Right click. And we're choosing layer clone. I'm choosing layer clone under because I'm merging the same pieces back into my pattern. Layer clone under. And what layer clone under does is it is applying a copy of that pattern. Let me move this out so you can see it underneath with the sewing relationship. And this sewing relationship involves every single internal line and every single segment line as well. So this is one of the ways you can do it. If you know another way, feel free to do whichever one you prefer. This one is a little easier for new people. Once you have done that, you've cut it, you've kind of created your line here. You don't have to merge them back together. I like to, just because I sometimes don't want to have this these pieces separate, and I want this entire layer to just be the one UV map. I'm going to merge my sewing lines back together. So I'm right clicking with my edit sewing tool. So it's the B hotkey or the edit sewing tool. So I'm just clicking it and I'm right clicking and I'm going to choose the word merge here and it's going to merge it back in place. I do lose my sewing, but this is a little easier for some people to visualize. So we're going to do that all again. It is a long way, but it is a little bit easier for some new people. Again, I'm choosing merge to all of these pieces. I do lose that sewing relationship. It's okay. We're going to put it back. Yes, this is how you can simulate a thickness of a hem to get that turned edge. You can also sew them together, reflect them. This is a little easier for newer people, and then you get to have that thickness without having to sculpt over like an edge. I'm glad you like it. So now we kind of have broken our sewing. That's okay. We're just going to go ahead and do the same thing we did a minute ago, which was reapply that offset. So again, offset as internal line. It remembers that we picked 20 millimeters. And I'm just going to pick 20 millimeters again. Now, we did lose our sewing, so just remember that. So you can also check with your edit sewing tool where your sewing is. So those edges are sewn together. These are no longer sewn to this. So using the N hotkey, so the segment sewing tool, we're just going to sew them into place. So attaching this edge to this one. If you do this, you can right click with the edit sewing tool. So B hotkey, right click, reverse sewing, and then it goes back. Make sure to sew it to itself. So segment sewing will save us today. And go ahead and finish sewing everything together. Now all of my sewing is in place again, and I have that internal line. There are faster ways to do what I just did, but that's okay. Let's see. I just did something wrong. Let's see what happened. Oh, yeah. I know what I did. Don't sew the front to itself or the back to itself either. So used to creating tubes today. So if you did what I did, I just did that together. Don't do that. So edges to edges. Now, if you're having a little bit of this happening here, you can select all of your lower edges, the hems that we created, and right click them again and choose superimpose under. They will stabilize themselves. Just give them a chance. For those of you who might be using the garment asset, the original one, you will probably not have this problem as much. The reason is because these are all 20 particle distance. So that's the density of your mesh is your particle distance. And also that might be why, in case you're experiencing it, your mesh, your Marvelous Designer is a little slower. This is 20 particle distance. And so it's quite wide, it's quite open. So the next thing we are going to do is prevent that by selecting all of these lines, or all of our small pieces. For those of us who are still at 20, we're going to bring that down to 10. I'm going to turn my mesh off so you can see what it looks like. I'm also going to, you guys don't have to do this. I'm doing this for the sake of visuals here. Add. Making them black, you don't have to do this, but it's so you guys can see it. So again, if you're still having this problem, right click, superimpose under, and then simulate again. And you should be good. So you can see I've created this one's black. Let me turn this on. So we can see my hem is all down here. All my edges are in place. So if your shirt is stable, here you can still, if you want to make your shirt longer, you can make it longer still for those of you who are new, who are still jumping in. If you want to make his shirt longer still at this point, you can. You totally can, but that would be something that you would need to follow the first video for to do. Because right now we're working with something that was made for this avatar. But you totally can. You can bring in your own custom avatar if you want, but you would need to follow the first video tutorial for it to be able to follow along with these videos. Because in that video, for those of you who aren't here yet last time, we made it to fit specifically him, but the same concepts can be applied to your own custom avatar. So let's just say we want to make this longer. Again, we still can do it. Select with the Edit Pattern tool. Pop it out so you can see it. Edit Pattern tool with the Z hotkey. Click and drag to select everything below this line, so below the waist, all of these lines here. We're just going to grab them and pull it down if you really want. If you want to make it longer, you can. You don't have to, but you totally can. You can also just make the hem a little bit longer. Yeah, right now, UG, we are just doing pattern manipulation now because the last one was pattern creation. But you can follow along with assets that are available already. So here you can make it really long if you really want. So I'll just show you as an example. I just made it slightly longer. So finish up the design length for your undershirt. It should be longer than like a sweatshirt because we're going to make a sweatshirt later. So once this is done, we can start applying fabric because we're basically done with all of our stitching. Because this is basically a t-shirt blank that we just turned into a full longer t-shirt. Now we want fabric and we will want top stitching. So I'm going to reset my layout in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. And we'll do fabric first. So in the photo that we all saw, I used a knit, where's my notes? It's a lightweight knit, which would be a cotton jersey. Because this is like a t-shirt. So cotton jersey would be a t-shirt. So cotton. I can just type in cotton. It should pop up. Knit cotton jersey. Dragging that into my window. And because this is easy on all of us, I'm hitting Control A. This is the only thing in my scene, which is why I do also like to work with one article of clothing. If I'm doing multiple layers, one article of clothing while I'm working. So, knit cotton jersey, Control A to select all. And this little button, looks like a little book with an arrow, applies it to everything that I've selected. Once I hit simulate, we will see our fabric change a little bit. It is similar to the fabric one, but it is a little more stable than the fabric one. So again, go to your fabric folder in your library. I typed in the word cotton. You can type in knit cotton jersey with a K-N-I-T. It's all the way down here for me. Where's my finger? There it is. So once you've applied your fabric, you can apply other knits if you want, just for the sake of this. While we're waiting, I'll give everyone a minute. They do all kind of fit differently. You don't have to do this if you've picked your fabric and you like it. Stay with it. So I'm just going to show you what they all kind of look different, even though they might be similar. So here's cotton gabardine. The differences are going to be in the simulation. So it's more crunchy. It's more stable. So rayon jersey is going to be even thinner. and that's like falling down even more. So I personally like the knit cotton jersey for specifically this piece, just because it's like a thicker cotton. It's just like the t-shirt I'm wearing. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure knit cotton jersey is on this. And then I'm going to choose in the right-hand corner here, delete unused. I have a whole bunch in the scene. You probably don't. I'm going to choose delete unused. And that cleans up all the fabric I haven't used, so I don't have to worry about what's in the scene and what's not in the scene. Once we have done that, we can go up to the fabric and double click, or you can select it once. You can change its name, but select your fabric, and then it'll bring up the property editor for your fabric. So we have kind of looked at the property editor for our patterns, but we haven't looked at fabrics yet. So let's take a little look here. So we have the name of our pattern. We have the construction type. It's a knit. It's got composition. This is if you start customizing your own, you can kind of give yourself information. The material is a PBR. We will use a substance later. And it has a repeat. You can also use unified. Fabric, matte, texture. If you really want, you can change your texture here. Normal map, displacement map, etc. The one thing that we are going to be doing is, in case it does have a texture and a colored texture, you would turn desaturation on to remove the color of that JPEG. So you can make sure to turn it off. You don't have to, I believe, with the knit cotton rayon jersey. Oh, wait, I don't want that one. I accidentally picked the wrong one. I knew it. Where is he? Knit cotton rayon jersey. Oh, I like this one. Picks the wrong one. Come here, you. I don't like it long like that. Knit cotton jersey. I'm overwriting it. There we go. Make sure that desaturation is on, because then that way you can easily pick your colors. We have opacity. We are not going to be giving him a sheer shirt, okay? Looks, we're not doing see-through. We're not doing some club wear. We're just making a t-shirt and a sweater. We have a roughness map. So here's all of the texture values that you can apply. And then we do have the physical property presets. So if you like the texture that you have, but you don't like the physical property preset, you can select it here. It will not look like those photos, because those photos are from the actual fabric. This is just changing how it drapes. So I don't recommend touching this. Just utilize your fabric library and then bring it in. So for those of us who are making this shirt and following along, make sure your desaturation is turned on. And now let's go ahead and pick a color. As you saw in the images on the thumbnail, I'm going to pick blue. Feel free to pick whatever color you want for his undershirt, because you're going to be putting on a contrasting sweater on top of this. And we want him to look nice, so just think about it. You can change your color later, but just consider that. I know I'm picking blue. You should pick a color. In fact, I'm just going to color pick from it. It's the same color. It's actually not the same color. All right. Weird. All right, I've got my blue. Now I'm done with my fabric. So let's go ahead. I hope you have all picked a color, and he has some sort of knit cotton as his shirt material. So now that we've done that, we're going to finish this shirt off with applying some top stitching. So top stitching is in the 2D window. It's next to the little pleat tool here. It looks like a couple of dots with an arrow on it. Got our little top stitching. So we're going to apply some top stitching to our shirt. You can use segment top stitch. You can use free top stitch. I recommend using free top stitch. That's a lot. Oh, well, this will stay up live. This always stays up live forever. Yeah. In fact, I do recommend people refer back to episode 1, part 1, for those of you who are new to this stream. So we're going slower than we normally do on these streams so that people can follow along. So segment top stitch you can use, for example. We're going to look here, hide this, put his hand pretty high. I'm zooming in. So we're going to use segment top stitch. Fabric and materials, you mean in the library? Or do you mean fabric and substance materials? Oh yeah, so materials allowing substance material. We're gonna get to that. If you're talking about that, we're gonna get to it. Right now, we're just gonna apply some top stitching. I accidentally popped that up. Okay. We're gonna get to the difference between the PBR materials and the substance materials once we start using substance materials. We have to make another shirt. We have another hour, and that's it. So we're gonna make the shirt first. So, segment top stitch. Looking at his sleeve. Didn't mean to do that. So segment top stitch, and you're just going to apply it on that internal line that we made. Because I'm introducing top stitching right now. And we have our top stitch. So we can go to the fabric tab here. We can go over to the top stitch, and it shows default top stitch. I'm double clicking my default top stitch, and we now need to edit this in our property editor. So we have our default top stitch, we have our offset. Let me bring up my notes for myself to remember. So we will use an edge stitch for this. And I'll explain what that means. So we have our offset. Our offset means how far it is away from the line it's sewing into. So if I make this 0, it is on top of that internal line. Or it would be on top of the segment line. So I'm putting it back to 1.2. So we have shape, we have pick stitch. I'm just showing you don't have to do this. Bar tack, buttonholes, very similar. Overlock, pick stitch again. Single, which is just back to back, and zigzag. Those are the custom stitches. They do add geometry. You can export them as geometry as OBJ. Yes, type OBJ or just texture. It's up to you. This is also why nearing the end of your workflow, you would be adding the top stitching at this point. So we are doing pick stitch, just a plain old stitch. Fabric type matte, texture, color. We'll edit color in a second. So the important parts are, depending on what you're working on, configuration, face. So it's actually meaning the facing of the direction. So you can have this be on only the back. So it's only showing, if I can do this, on the back side of the material, on the flipped normal. Come here, sleeve. Gotta edit the stitch again. Or you can do both. So doing both is great for, let me move this so you can see it a bit better. Doing both is great for if you have a standing collar, as in something that is for a button-down shirt. Technically, you would have it sewn on both sides. And if you're just using one material of fabric and you're doing my favorite cheat, which is just one layer of fabric and then applying the double-sided geometry little button to it, just a toggle, then you don't have to do 2 layers of material. And so you can also do number of lines. So we're going to come back to number of lines here in a minute. So we're just going to do front. This one's going to be 1 stitch, but we are going to change the offset. So for the offset, we're going to make it a little bit longer, further away. We'll make it like 2. You can make it 2. It's up to you. It's up to you. You can just also make it 0. If you wanted to manufacture this garment, you could import this into Clo, and you would need to do a lot of cleanup on your pattern. Clo is our sister software that is meant for the manufacturing of apparel and like bill of materials and pattern creation industry. So choose your offset. You can just also make it 0. Pick an offset that's not 1.2. So you've done it. So I'm just going to choose 2. This is technically going to be hidden, but we've done it. You have this asset already made. I'm leaving it as OBJ. It's up to whatever you want to do. And then we're going to go ahead and change the top stitch color. We're not going to do white, but we also don't, you can make it the same color. You can color pick from your garment, and so you can't even see it if you did this. For example. But I want to do different colors. I believe in this case I did a gray on that video. You can't see it. At least not here. Yeah, I'm going to do a contrast. So we're going to do gray. You can pick black, pick anything that you want. So you've have your stitch in place. Now, if you think this is too thin for your project, for example, there are the 3 that I specifically skipped because of this exact reason. We have the length of the stitch. So we can do like, I'm going to make it crazy and make it 5. So it's a giant stitch. You can make it tiny. I'll make it 2. The space is in between the stitches. I like the spacing in between the stitches for the 2. And then thread thickness. This is where we get to see a little bit more. So here's where we actually can see something that's a little bit more defining for this style. So I can just choose 1 millimeter thick. That's a thick boy. So play around with this as well. And get your top stitch to a thickness that you like. You like how it looks. I'm zoomed in really close. But it depends on your game and what your project actually is. Sometimes you want to actually see this, especially with these being OBJs. So you can make this like a very wide, thin, spread out top stitch. I'm probably going to choose 3, 1.5, and then I'll make this 0.8. So mine that I'm picking for this one is 3, 1.5, and 0.8. Just because I think that looks nice. It's different from the promo picture. That's okay. So once you've created your top stitch and you've already placed it on the sleeve, you can see here. Now we're going to place it on the collar. Here is where we're going to use free top stitch, and I'm going to show you why. You're not going to sew your top stitch on the collar itself, because oftentimes with these kinds of garments, the top stitch is going on the piece that's facing the body. So the whole point of these top stitches is that they're technically holding your, in Marvelous Designer, non-existent seam allowance in place. So you don't want your seam allowance facing your neck. You want it facing away from the neck. So that is why we are applying it on the body pattern piece. I want to keep this symmetrically linked. So, and I'm just going to use the free sewing. Because it's symmetrically linked, this is annoying. You're not going to see this. Well, we will clean this up later. It's fine. But you can just completely draw on your pieces. Because it is symmetrically linked, it's causing it to look like this. You want to be careful of your join lines. This is also why I'm showing it. That you can clean this up, but you should be removing your symmetrical linking, and I don't want to do that. We don't want to do that right now. So we're going to leave this in place, and then we'll clean it up later. And then, where else do I want to put it? You can also put it on your sleeves, on your armholes. It's all up to you on how much detail you want to place. Here's where we're going to do a different top stitch. And I'm going to show you what we're doing. So with our top stitch, we're going to select it, and we're going to choose copy. Now I have a copy of this. So it's all the same information. This one I'm doing a different type of top stitch, but I want to use most of the same and make a slight change to it. So I've made a copy. I'm going to rename this as, for me, I know what it is, but for everybody else, let's do two rows, 2 stitches. So I'm renaming it 2 stitches. Technically, the word is a twin needle, but we'll just do 2 stitches. And we're going to apply our top stitch to that seam. We'll clean this up later, so it is okay. These are meeting in the center. So just apply your top stitch. Let me make sure. You have to pick a specific direction for these. It's a little annoying. Okay, so start from right, and go left with your free top stitch, and it pushes your stitch to the side from left to right. So it's going to go down. We want this on the lower portion in this case. So using the free top stitch tool, I'm going to do it again. Go from right side to left side, and it applies it. Oh, it's mirrored. Normally that works. Are you just being a brat? Okay, fine. Whichever way works for you, apply it on the bottom. Make sure that it's applied to the bottom side. It is specifically dependent on the direction you're going, but I think because it's mirrored, I had to do it the other way. And again, they're meeting in the middle. It's not perfect. It's not consistent. We will clean that up later. So we have that same top stitch. This looks weird. Okay, we're going to look at his hip. Once you've applied all of your top stitches to all of the seams that are going to have it, and you've created one row for the 2 stitch. Now this is why I showed you with the offset being different. So it's still the 2mm offset. And then we go back down to configuration, and we have under face the number of lines. So we can do 2 lines. We can do 4 lines. We can do so many lines. And then we can specifically select the spaces in between them. And you can select 3D to toggle in your, it applies a small normal map for where the stitches would be. So we want 2 lines because it's got 2 stitches. And then it's going to be the distance between those stitches. So we can apply 2mm between the 2. But in this case, we are doing a bit of a wider hem. And we want one of those stitches to be in the middle of our internal line. So what we're going to do is go back up to offset and make our offset 0. Because that applies that rule to our first line. So make sure that your offset is 0 on your second stitch set. And then we're going back down. You can specifically select your spaces in millimeters. If you know inches better, you can use inches. But I'm going to use millimeters because I think most people here prefer millimeters. I'm going to choose like 5. Do 4. So long as it looks nice to you, make sure it's something that's more than what it was before. So now you have your piece that is stitching in that internal line, and then you have an additional one below it. Once you have done that, your shirt is pretty much done. Before we clean up the shirt, I'm trying to think. I don't think we should clean up the shirt based on the time we have. We might just clean up that shirt later. No, we'll clean it up now. It's pretty fast. So first of all, save your project. Not as the same project. We're going to make a new one. So you can save it as a project, or you can save it as a garment by going up to File, Save As. I'm going to save it as a garment because I'm going to bring this garment in to another project at the end of all of this. So I'm choosing Save as Garment. Desktop. Stream Part 2, and I'm choosing a blue t-shirt. So save your project. Save more often than I do. I think you can. No, you cannot have a negative offset. There are things that you can have negatives for, but you cannot have a negative offset. So we've saved this as a separate project or a separate file. Now we're going to clean up those those stitches. The reason we've saved it is because we're going to reuse this to make our sweater. That's going to go over it because it's very similar but slightly different. So once you've saved it, I'll give you guys a second. Thick textured surface. So once you've saved it, we're going to remove linked editing across these two pieces. So remove linked editing, or for those of you who might be using an older version, merge them just merge them together. And we're going to do a little bit of cleanup. I'm choosing convert this line to a curve point. Same with the back necks. So those are both curve points. And this is why we couldn't use the free sewing tool on this piece. You can see these internal lines have a little, it's smaller, the closer I get, the smaller it is. It's a little hollow circle. If you are familiar with vector tools, it means that it is not connected to anything. So we will connect them. So I'm clicking and dragging with my edit pattern tool, right clicking, merge to point. I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to do the same to the front and the back. So I'm cleaning this up a bit. And then we're going back to our top stitch tools and edit top stitch. If you like how this looks, awesome. If you don't, this is where we just redo that stitching. So I just selected it and deleted it. This is just a case of if you really want to have, if you really just want to clean it up. You don't have to. Just make sure that your direction is the correct direction. So I'm using the free sewing one, the free top stitch, free sewing version of it, to go across those segment points. So you can see here, yeah, where is it? It's much cleaner, and at where that center line is, it is no longer kind of mirroring itself. Just keep an eye on whichever direction it went. And now we can see that our lines are much cleaner. Oops. I'm just going to edit this. So if you've done what I've just done here, if you've done what I've just done here, because I was using my old 2 stitches here, you can just grab and drop, drag and drop, just like you can with fabric, your top stitching. You've missed a lot with the mesh clubwear. I told you not to put on mesh clubwear. You did it anyway. That's what you get. We made a long sleeve t-shirt and then we applied top stitching to that t-shirt, and I covered all of what top stitching is. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and save this garment, blue t-shirt. Now that I've cleaned it up, you can save this. You can also save it separately. So again, I'm going to save this one different. I'm going to save this one as a project. You saw the garment first. It doesn't matter so long as you have 2 different files. That's all you need. Because I want this to have, this next piece that I'm going to turn this into to be symmetrically linked while I'm working. So now we have finished our blue t-shirt. Once you finish your blue t-shirt, I'm going to open that older garment or project. Whichever you've done, bring it in. I saved it as a garment, so add garment, blue t-shirt, okay. No. It's still symmetrically linked. Rosemary, welcome in. We're just doing super basic stuff with these beginner tutorials all month. So we've just made a basic t-shirt and we've saved it. 2 different versions, one with cleanup and one without cleanup. We're going to turn this t-shirt now into the orange sweatshirt. You don't have to have orange, but we are making a sweatshirt out of it. And this has the top stitching without the cleanup because they are still symmetrically linked, which is what we're looking for. So, a couple of things involving this piece. We do want to make it a little bigger because it's a sweater. It's going to be a looser fit, but it's very similar to what we're doing. So first of all, the sweater is going to be oversized. So what we're going to do is select all of our pieces. Actually, before you do anything, just in case you guys have a crash, save this as a new project. So save as project. Everyone's going to have 3 of the same shirt right now. We're saving this as another project file. This is going to be a sweater with logo, because that's what we're going to do with this piece. Sweater with logo, save. It doesn't look like it right now, but it's going to be. I believe in all of you. I believe we can do this in 45 minutes. So this was a relatively tight-fitting t-shirt, right? We're going to make a sweatshirt now. So select all of this now. You've saved this. It's another file. You can't see it, but it's right behind me. It says sweater with logo. Make sure you are not changing your blue shirt pattern, your blue shirt file. Select all of it. And we're going to do it the lazy way, my favorite way. Make it slightly bigger all around. So we're just going to grab this with the transform pattern tool and right click. And we have a transform option. I'm going to do it again. Select, grab the corner and right click. We have our transform option. We have percentages for both width and height. If you don't have that, make sure that you're going in a diagonal and not left and right. For our oversized sweatshirt, for the beginning of this, we're going to do about 103%. You can do 102 to 103% the size. That's probably the max I recommend you doing, unless you want it to be really, really oversized. We will do other manipulations, but do about 103. So you can see a little bit of the changes that are going to happen. And we're going to simulate. It is diagonal, so we do need to fix our neck a little bit, but that's about it. You can see here the wrinkles aiming towards the neck are causing it to ripple and gather. That's what you didn't want your shirt to look like before. So, doing the opposite of what we did in the first half, just going to make this a little longer. Just Just grab the side, make it a little longer. Pull at it so it settles itself a little bit. I'm going to mess with this. Once yours is in place, awesome, we'll move forward. Oh, if you're simulating and your top stitching is gone, it's okay. It just doesn't show when you're simulating. Okay. Now we have a slightly larger shirt. We will do a couple of other things first. So, first of all, we are going to make this shorter, and then we are going to make our sleeves longer. I know we love all of our trim, but we are deleting all of this trim, making this wider. So delete all of your lower hem pieces. Moving my sleeve out of the way. So we're just going to be making this slightly shorter. Not slightly shorter, a lot shorter. You have a couple of ways to do this. You can just shrink it upwards. If you do, you want to delete these internal lines. It deletes your top stitching, that's okay. So we're going to do that. It's a little easier for some people. I'll show you this. So I'm deleting those internal lines only. And we're going to delete these segment lines as well, segment points. Clean up your pattern, make sure you're working clean. So we're going to grab the hem, just like we did before where we lengthened it, we're going to shorten it. I'm shortening it pretty high. I'm going about 138 millimeters shorter. And then I'm simulating. Oh, it's so short. It's okay. We're gonna add a little waistband. Same thing's gonna happen to the sleeves. We're not gonna do too much shorter for the sleeves. For the sleeves, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I like it. I like doing it this way. We're gonna do the same thing for the sleeves. Again, we're deleting those internal lines. We've deleted all of our facings. I'm holding shift to make it smaller. Just slightly smaller because it still fits him. And we do want it to be a little puffy. So I've just made it a little bit smaller. Again, holding shift. Mine's about 50 millimeters smaller. About 50. And they are symmetrically linked. So what happens to one happens to the other. It's beautiful. What we are also going to do is make our sleeves bigger going up. In simple terms, going up and down. So the circumference of our sleeve is going to be larger. To do that, we are going to do two things. We are going to lower our front and back segment points. So drag and select, lower them a little bit. Like I'm making this about 28 millimeters lower. You can see the change. And we are going to match that with our sleeves as well. We can see this has been, the circumference of this has increased, so we must do the same to our sleeve. You can be precise about it. You do not have to be. So it's about 28-ish. So just do 28-ish on both sides. You can hold shift. You just don't want to change where your sleeves are in line with each other. So now it is a bit of a looser fit on the sleeve. We are also going to widen the armhole, just the hand hole just a little bit. This is happening to both pieces because they are still symmetrically linked. And that's why we did it. So play with yours a little bit. Make it work. Once you're happy with the fit, we're going to apply our, technically the word is ribbing. It's our elasticized band for the hem and the sleeve. We're just going to be creating rectangles again. So make your rectangle smaller than the hem. And we're going to do the same to the sleeve. We're just eyeballing it right now. You can make them symmetrically linked across the center back for this one, for these ones, but you don't have to. And then I'm going to make a symmetrically linked wrist sleeve piece. Control D after selecting it. Link those two together. And then sew them into place using the sewing tools. We're using segment sewing again. And just sewing them into the hem. Holding shift for these pieces that are symmetrically linked, making sure that your notches are going in the same direction so that you don't actually cross them. Once you have done all of this and it looks absolutely chaotic, we're going to check our work and make sure it's going to work out by using our arrangement points again. So turning on arrangement points, selecting my sleeve cuffs here, and placing them on my lowest arrangement point on the hand. It's gonna look weird, that's okay. You can pull it out, you can pull it up, whatever you think is gonna be easier for your workflow. I'm gonna leave it as it is just to be a little chaotic today. Same thing with my front and my back. Make sure that they are not crisscrossed. It doesn't look absolutely like it's gonna have a simulation issue. And then I turn off the arrangement points. These look a little worrying. It'll be okay. Go ahead and simulate. You can pull at your sleeve a bit, pop it up, see how it's looking. Sew the edges of the sleeves together. There we go. That cuff looks pretty good. I'm still fiddling with the neck. Just whatever ends up looking good. I'm going to leave this as it is. I'll make this a little thinner too because I know I widened it. So grab it, pull at it. Check your work. I'm just resewing this in place to see if that fixes it or something. Doesn't always. No, it didn't do anything. Once you have your cuffs in place, you like how everything looks, then we will apply our substance texture, and I'll explain the difference between the two with that as the example. So for the materials, someone had the question about materials. I'm going to grab substance. Now it takes a little bit, which is why I don't normally recommend using substance textures if your computer can't handle it. These are the basic substance textures that come available with Marvelous Designer 11. And we're going to go to the bottom. Go to the bottom and grab that one. It is stylized rib knit wool. Just drag it and drop it into your fabric window. Takes a little bit. So the difference is that we have basic fabric materials, which are PBR materials, and then we have substance materials. And that's the difference, is material type, substance, or PBR. So we have substance, materials, and that's what we have here. So here I'm going to apply my substance material to my cuffs and the hem of this ribbing. And I'll just apply it to the collar, pressing this little arrow at the bottom. Now I have the default substance material here. Default. So with substance materials, we do have more parameters that we can change and properties. So I can transform, reflection parameters, custom properties, channels. If you're familiar with substance textures, it does allow you to make some edits. The most that we're changing right now is the color. So custom properties, color. I'm going to color pick. In this case, I'm color picking the blue. It's going to change. In fact, we should probably do that now. Yeah. So this is where we're going to change it. Delete unused. Make sure to delete unused. So here's where we're going to pick our color of our sweater. We have our two textures in place, and this is what we're using. So change your sweater into another color. Now I know I'm going to pick orange. So I'm just going to color pick from that photo. You can pick whatever color you want, so long as it's going to look good with your shirt. Oh, I'm color picking from the chat by accident. There we go. I'm going to choose orange, like a little burnt orange here. And select OK. So once you've selected the color of your sweater, we need to change this substance texture to match it. So same thing, custom properties. You can color pick from the sweater and select OK. Now this is pretty big. This texture is too large for what we're expecting it to look like. To change that, we can go up to the, let me pop this out, texture tools. It looks like a cloth with a grid on it. It's right here. We can do edit texture. Close the sewing tools. So we can edit our texture, and we're just going to edit it also affects the property of the fabric as well. For example, if I double click my rib wool here, it is a custom preset. So it is the simulation preset for this. For the fabric, but most people who are asking and who are brand new to Marvelous Designer don't know how substance textures technically fully work. So we're using simpler terms because we're not doing much to it. But it is technically a knit. So in this case, it's applying to our rule. If I brought wood in, it wouldn't drape super well. So I would want to use a different preset. But it is the custom preset that is applied to this substance texture and substance material. It's not going to affect the geometry too much, but it does affect how it's going to simulate. And that's the important part. So for our substance texture, I'm going to select it. And we can rotate its direction if you really wanted. Oh, let me pick the front. Eee. Can I pick a front? Thank you. You can rotate the direction. This is technically the direction of your grain. Right now, we like it up and down. That's why we made it rectangles. What we do want is to make this smaller in scale. So we are going to just use this diagonal gizmo and shrink it. And so now it looks much nicer. So once you have resized your texture, I'm going to make this slightly smaller. I don't like how wide these are. Yeah. Once you have your texture and you like how it looks, I would recommend you fiddle around with it a little bit. Custom properties. I do want to make it maybe a little lighter. It's never going to be perfectly matching, but it's just something you can play with. Even in real life, they're never perfectly the same. On simulate. There we go. Here's where we still have our top stitching here. Now we can reapply our top stitching. Once we're done with the top stitching, we're going to do the graphic, and I'm going to give everyone that link one more time. So we're going to do that cleanup again. Again, I'm just going to remove linked editing. We're not making any more changes here. And I'm going to clean this up. Same exact thing we did before. Delete point. Make sure you're not deleting any sewing. Just clean it up a little bit. Same thing, we're editing the top stitching. I've done it a couple of times. I'm going to speed through this. We are going to reapply it to this edge. We do the top stitching. You saw the default top stitch. We're going to reapply it. Oops. We will change the color, so you can change the color if you want. You don't have to. I like it being black, but you can make a copy, change the color. In this case, we don't have to worry about the directionality of our stitches, so just leave it as it is. If you really want to get fancy, let me do this. You can apply it to the shoulder stitches, to the shoulder seams. So fancy. Now, our top stitching is where we want it. You don't have to have it on there, even at all if you want. But I've applied top stitching. This portion of our design is done. Or you can just leave it as it is. So I'm going to reset my library, bring it back out. I always close it just for you guys to see it a little bit easier. Here's where, because it's all done. Oh, save your project. Save it before you do anything else, just in case you have a crash of some sort. Remember to always save. Once you have saved, we are going to be bringing in our graphic. So I'm just going to show you the graphic. It's right here. It's in this folder. This is the one I've picked. This is the one that is provided for everybody. Let me grab that link. If you do not have a graphic, I have one for you. All right. So this is the graphic we're going to use if you don't already have one prepared. So going up to the textures and tools again, you saw edit textures. There's two more under there called transform graphic and graphic 2D pattern. We are going to apply a graphic to our 2D pattern. So I'm going to select graphic 2D pattern. It's going to pop this up. So you can have a bunch of things. I recommend a PNG. I'm going to select that PNG. It's here. This is the exact source folder. Select your graphic and choose open. In this case, you're going to have a little kind of like site here. It says to click on a pattern to add graphic. So click on your pattern to add your graphic. This is the front. I'm going to click on it. Width, outline center. You can change this later, and that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to select OK because it's going to choose the original size of your graphic. Now with these PNGs, they're not always clean, no matter what we do. They sometimes look weird. That's just what we're having. I didn't make it super clean. It's okay. I can use the transform graphic to move my graphic around. Takes a minute, which is why we saved. So as you saw in the photo, we're going to enlarge this graphic and place it on his shoulder. So I'm using the transform graphic tool. I'll give you guys a second to catch up. Do you have any questions? Do you want me to redo it? I'll redo it. I'll do it again. Okay, so for those of you who might have been confused, or if I went too fast. So you're going up to the 2D toolbar. You're selecting the shirt with like a little bunch of squares on it. I'm gonna pop it out. It's the graphic 2D pattern tool. Click that. And here is the folder where I've actually stored my graphic. You can probably go to your downloads if you've just downloaded this specific graphic. Select the graphic that you want to use to apply to your shirt. Select your graphic. In this case, it's the PNG. I'm choosing open. And then I'm going to have kind of measurements and directionality. It's great if you know specifically what you're doing involving your graphic. In this case, we're just going to play around with it just to make it easier for everybody. Once you have this, select your front pattern piece and then click. It's going to give you a bunch of options with size and width. We're not going to be specific with that today. We're going to hit OK, and then we're going to change it by eye using the Transform Graphic tool. Click that button. And here's where, again, I was moving it around. When you select your graphic, a little circle gizmo will appear. And here's where you can rotate it if you really wanted. You can make it larger. You can make it smaller. See where we're going with this. We're going to actually be bringing in our graphic more than once. So as we saw in that photo, I'm going to put this graphic on his shoulder. Kind of mimicking that hunting patch that you sometimes see on coats and stuff. And having it slice in between those pattern pieces. There's a reason why we're doing it with and without. There's two ways to work. Once you've brought in your graphic in a place that you like it, where it is cut in between, we're going to bring in the same graphic again. So graphic 2D pattern. I'm selecting that one again. And then I'm going to put it over here on the side-ish. Okay. I got two now. I can move it around. This one I'm going to make quite large. I'm going to close this. This one I'm going to make pretty big because I want it to look less of the same, for example. This one I'm going to rotate differently. I don't want to see that point like that. So play around with your graphics. We'll do that because it looks kind of like that. Yeah. It's like right on the edge too. With this one will be a little bit crossing. This still applies, by the way, if these are symmetrically linked. Just in this case, these are not symmetrically linked, just based on the order that we've worked. But if it does have the center line, it still applies only one graphic. We're just playing around with this, though. I'm going to make this even big. How big do I want this guy to be? Maybe not that big. Maybe I do. Hi. Okay. I'm making a copy that shirt that we made as the promo. So I'm going to make it collide pretty awkwardly to make it hard on me. Or is it? So we have two graphics. This one, I want it to go over to the other side. So there's a couple of ways. I can right-click this graphic. And choose Tile, Flip, Revert to Original Size. Here are the kind of edits. Can you make the shoulder graphic automatically? Sometimes. I believe in Clo you can. In here we're gonna do it the hard way. Wait, I think it's in this button. Let me see. So we have our graphic. Before we get there, we have our graphic property editor, graphic type, day 2 graphic, texture, normal map, etc. You can change the color if you want. Face, front, over seam line is going to be where that is. It's actually here. It's not really pretty though. Sometimes it doesn't work. Because it's technically going over a bunch of seams and things are symmetrically linked. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to toggle this off. This one, you can do that, but not necessarily with the collar. I wouldn't do it on the collar anyway. It would affect the comfort of the collar, but you can do it this way. With such a harsh curve, it would warp the entire pattern, so it's not letting you. Tile none. This one we are going to do it the hard way. I'm going to not do it over the seam line just because I want two different things. This is the one where we are going to Control C, Control V, and we are going to do it the hard way. I made this a little crazy shape, but that's okay, specifically so that you can line them up. And it's also not that hard. Come here. Just need to move you a small amount down. Like you can, but it doesn't always work perfectly, so that's why we are doing it this way. Because it depends on the nature of your patterns and if you have symmetrical linking attached or not. Now that is also why my seams are not curved on my side seam. There we go. And mine's lined up. So you can toggle this on. Where did I put it? It's not there, it's this one. Select your piece with the transform. You can do over seam line, but it's not always perfect. So sometimes you do want to line it up manually, and especially with a curved shape. If it's straight, it can work, but if it's going over a bunch of things all at once, like you can see here, it's still up there. I don't want that. Oops, I want to just toggle this one off, off of the over seam line. You can, but sometimes you don't want to. Now this one's complex, but oftentimes you can pretty much fake it pretty easy. Or you can even just make these pieces one piece if that's easier for you to think. So, yeah, for example, this one you can get away with 2. I'm just going to select, I keep selecting it in 3D. Overseen line, you can get away with the 2. You're not going to get away with something like this on the collar because of the shape of the collar. If this collar was the same, you could get away with it. Because it's such a crazy tube shape, it's not going to let you. Click away. So we have one that is bleeding over that we have done manually, and then we have one that we're letting it get chopped off. I like it without it continuing. I personally think it looks a bit better, but it's up to you what you want. But we've done 2 different ways of applying this PNG graphic. And now we're going to save it. Save as. Project or garment. In this case, I can do garment. We're going to save it. Logo. So save this. We're going to save it again. Is it creating stitching? No, it's just the quality of the graphic. It wasn't made that big. So I've saved it separately as a garment, and I'll also save this as the same file. So file, save project, desktop, stream part 2, garment sweater with logo. Yes. Now I don't know how far everybody is. We have a couple more minutes. We could layer this, but we don't have to. And the graphic can have its own, it can have its own texture, technically, but it will not change how it drapes. So you can't have a substance texture for your graphic. It's just an applied image. Yeah, it's literally what Electro Blue just said. It's literally a t-shirt graphic logo. Yeah, in this case, like logo, I'm just gonna put the word print. I'm gonna select it be a print. It does nothing in Marvelous Designer. It does something in Clo, but you can be like, it's a print. I've decided it's a beautiful print. You can make it metallic if you want. But we can't see it here. But you can make it metallic there, but I would do reflection. There we go. I would do like reflection if you wanted it to look like that. But because of the nature of this print, it's imperfect. You'd have to make a very, very large vector item. And this wasn't made that large. So that is something to keep in mind. Let's see how this one's shiny. You can make it look like an iron-on patch. Make it look not iron-on. It's up to you. So last things, at least involving this guy, Control A. Control A, select all your pattern pieces. We're going to make our particle distance. We're going to make it 15 first. And then simulate. So we are going to reduce our particle distance to make it easier for the next step of the streams. Electro Blue, if you wanted to make it satin, you can technically go to the material type and then just instead of fabric matte, pick satin. But if you wanted it to look like a stitched on material, like it's stitched on applique, I would recommend you actually like sew it and make it like a layer on top and then apply top stitching. But you can cheat it, but it's not going to simulate as if it's another layer of material. But it's not going to simulate differently if you do. So make this guy 15. Always save as you do this. Because next Wednesday, we're going to layer all of these together with a pair of pants that I will make available. This is the one difference, is if you have a pair of pants for your avatar, you're going to need them because we're making a different style of jeans on the next stream. Let me make sure that it's turned on, and I'll link everybody in the call on the stream to it. So bring this down to the 15. I would say to not bring it down any further for now because we will layer it by the end of next week, next Wednesday. Let me grab. So your shirt should look like this. We have 10. I believe in everybody. I believe in you all. We're gonna do it. I believe in you all. We'll put the shirt underneath it. We'll put the blue shirt underneath it. So we're going to Control A, Control K. We've frozen everything. Okay. Go to File, and we're going to bring in that shirt. Remember, we saved it as a garment. The 2D window is just like the UV map. We're going to bring in our blue shirt. I think this is the one that's done. Oh, no. File, Import, Add. Where is it? 2 questions. Add. You can choose project or garment, whichever one you want. Add. Just choosing blue shirt. Make sure it's add, not open. No, we're not changing the size and the pose. Does this have it? Okay, this is not the one I want. Pick the one that you've finished. Add. I think it has to be project. File, add, project. Both work. It's just a case of which one you've done. Blue t-shirt. I should have named it blue t-shirt done. Add. Garment. Do not add your avatar. Load pose. No. Don't care. Okay, this is the one. Move it so it's not layered with your shirt. So before we go any further, we're going to do two things to layer this. This piece, we're going to go to select, make sure your blue is still selected. We're going to choose layers, or your shirt is still selected. We're going to choose layers. We're going to choose layer. This is where the negatives come in. You can do layer -1. We're going to choose layer -1. Okay. And then we're going to do one other thing to help stabilize this. We do shrinkage weft percentage. Now you've made it all exactly this shape. This is how it's posed. You're going to make this 80% the size that it was before. Now we're not simulating yet. Don't do it. Last thing, this is frozen. You could. The easiest way to do this is we're going to activate it, right click, activate, right click, deactivate. So we're Control J. We're deactivating that upper layer, and now you can hit simulate. We'll do this again. but I want to have a photo for the end for everybody. I'm hiding this. So this is a really tight shirt right now. It's okay. We'll fix it. Can you see your layers in Photoshop? No idea. Haven't looked. Marvelous Designer does not export projects in for Photoshop and for pattern creation. If you want something like that, you would want to use Clo. Marvelous Designer does not have that capability. Your projects cannot be opened in Photoshop specifically for that reason. It's just going to be your UV. Like this is your UV map. So this is not activated. We are going to activate it again, and it'll pop to the top. And I'm just grabbing this to make it bigger, like to pull it up. I'm going to select that shirt that we made too small, and we're going to bring that back to 100%, the size, horizontally. So the shirt is now bigger, back to its original size, and you've technically layered your sweatshirt over your shirt. Now, can you see the fabric layers? Yeah, no. So this longer shirt is just going to be seen like over the pants, and that's why we've done it like this. So now you're done. You didn't. For those of you who might have left, we'll do this again. The first thing on the next call on the next stream. I need to go to the dashboard and make the next live visible to everybody. Private, public, publish, edit. And I will give everyone the link to the next one because I'm writing it right now. Base pants. Save. Video link. It is now published as of right now. So I'm giving them that, and now I'm going to check the call. I keep calling it a call. I haven't been in a call forever. Yes. So what Rosemary has just said while I was making the YouTube video link available is that once you are done with your layers, you want to make them 0. So this has a layer value of 0, and this one has a layer value of -1. You always want to remove all layer values once they have stabilized. Make it 0, and then hit enter. So again, just 0, whatever you prefer. So long as there is no layer value by the end of this. What will be private? Poke through usually happens with big difference, but yes. It will not be a private stream. I've just given you guys the stream link as I've just made it. If that's what you're asking, Vanessa. I made the stream from being hidden from everybody to now being public. You guys have the first ones that have the link. I'll post it after the call's done, or probably tomorrow. Pull the shirt down. I don't recommend that with Clo. We have very different tools from Clo. Vanessa, actually, no. 30-second lag. If you're using Clo, I will not be able to help answer your questions, and our tools have very different names. And our entire layout is very different. They're similar, but you would have to know the two exact software packages and how different they are. And I'm not going, like, my caveat here is I will not help support you with any questions involving Clo. I cannot. You would have to follow streams from the Clo team. When you export the garment, do you export as one piece for a game character or separate layers? I would do a couple of different things for stabilizing this for a game character. Like I would cut some pieces up to make it as much of one piece as I can. And texture bake. But right now we're just doing basics of like, how do I make a garment in Marvelous Designer? For people who are very new to Marvelous Designer who just want to make something, here's going to be the basics. Yeah, as Rosemary said, 30-second lag. And I think I gave it to everybody. I'm going to copy it again. I don't think I did. I did not. So for those of you who are coming back next time, this is where using your own custom avatar is a little different. This is since I'm using this avatar, this base pant fits this avatar. Also, Clo users, these avatars are completely different sizes. You would have to know grading. So this is the pattern I'm going to be using. We're going to learn tracing. And making a pattern and then finalizing it all. So this one fits our avatar that we're all kind of the base avatar that we're using. You can use your own pant, but you would not be tracing with us, but you will do the rest of it and you can follow along. But you would have to provide your own pant that fits your custom avatar if you're following along with your custom avatar. So that's the difference. But you totally can. Just be aware of that specifically. Prepare a pant that fits your avatar. Yes, we're not going to do that today. It's the end of the stream. That is something that we do next time. But I don't know what you mean, Electro, by preview your garment. Most of the time, people want them in an A pose. Electro, you are asking a lot of questions that are very similar to the needs of Clo 3D users. So if you are using Clo 3D, I would recommend looking at those tools and tutorials. Because oftentimes we don't need that, but we can record animation, but we don't need to preview how a garment technically fits for comfort, for example, even though I say it. But yes, we do have a built-in catwalk. We'll pick a pose, not the pose I used for the preview, for the like promo images. But we'll use a pose at the end. But it takes a while. That's the thing, is that's what we do at the last. The last thing we're gonna do. Because it takes time to simulate all of that at 5 particle distance. It depends on what you're trying to do. Electro, because sometimes you're just texture baking and you don't want this to do much more than fit exactly like this. There's still a 30-second lag, and I even forget that. So we are technically done. We're going to do the layering again next time. So prepare your 2 shirts, and then prepare a pant pattern or a pant that fits your avatar if you're using a custom avatar. Otherwise, there is a pant pattern that is available for the default avatars. Yeah, and I did that for the pose, but I'm not gonna do that for this stream. We have tutorials on that already on the YouTube channel, if I'm not mistaken. I will not go into texture baking next time. This is for brand new beginners who are brand new to any 3D software. There is not enough time to go into texture baking when he doesn't have pants. You can't texture bake without pants on. But no, we are just going to be making pants and finishing up the full look. And then that is when you would be applying the rest of your workflow. So thank you guys for joining us. We will continue the rest of his look next time. And then he will go into a pose at the end of it, but we will not go any further because that can be too confusing for people who are brand new to 3D software like this. So again, thank you guys for joining us, and I hope to see probably half of you are going to be here next time. It does take time to make these things, so I hope to see you guys next time. If you have not seen this, if you haven't done this yet, and you want to join with the stream next week on next Wednesday, do it. I will make posts reminding people about it, though. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Technically, you guys have the link to the other place. Thank you guys for joining us. I will see you guys next time, and it's good to see you again, Rose.